Oops. Okay. Good mo Hello, everybody. It's your friend Cindy, and today I am interviewing a wonderful, amazing woman speaker. Her name is Kate Brenton. Look up creativity and critical thinking in an AI era. This sounds great. How you doing today, Kate?
I am so happy to be talking to you. You are always light me up. You let me
Okay.
here.
This is great. Okay, so tell us what you speak on.
Sure. In a time where we have so much information and opportunity, everyone's telling me they have so much opportunity. I'm spending my time with two groups of humans, and one of them are teenagers, another are leaders. And the people who are paying attention are the ones getting off of the screens. So I titled my talk "Look Up" because I recently was hanging out
Oh,
with some
okay.
teenagers, teaching them, and they were explaining to me that AI really isn't supposed to teach you. It's supposed to utilize the tools that you already have. And I thought, okay, this is an answer. Instead of banging the drum of stay away, they gave me an answer. And then I found myself shortly after that in a room with Pennsylvania legislators and House of Representatives across our country. It was a women's leadership conference. And I was standing in line, and a woman across from me asked me if I was already running for office. And I said, no, that's not my intention. I'm here for educational advocacy. And she
Okay.
said, tell me more. And I said, we need to focus on critical thinking while everyone's focusing on AI. And she looked at me and she said, well, that's the truth. Everyone knows it. Nobody wants to say it. And I thought, here we are. She runs a think tank out of Texas funding um, educational programs. So I thought those are really the people I'm speaking, with leaders and business leaders. I speak in women's groups, but the people that are quietly watching the orchestration and the children that are receiving the orchestration are both telling us some really good news. And the good news is we are still the creative drivers of our day and our businesses. And so I'm feeling really excited about that confirmation right now and watching um, how easy the ahas are that everyone who's paying attention to their lives, and puts enjoyment at the forefront, knows that we are actually the creative beings, not the computers.
No, I always say AI would be nothing without humans.
Exactly it.
But humans have survived how many years? I mean, like, some people say we go back hundreds of thousands of years, and we never had AI before. But
Yep.
it causes atrophy. That's
Yeah,
the problem,
that's right.
is when you allow something else to do what you are able to do, then it creates this atrophy. And I call my or ChatGPT, I call her Lucy because of the movie Lucy. I
Mhm.
don't know if you ever saw that, but it's about this woman who ends up knowing everything. She knows everything. So Lucy's good at that, but she needs the web to teach.
Correct.
And who developed the web? And who puts things on the web?
That's right.
Human beings. So what happens, I always think of the old days, like the old days before electricity. So what happens if the grid goes out?
Mhm.
Then what?
Totally. And people go to those extremes. Then when I'm with audiences, I'm like, when you are outside, nature or mountains, the questions disappear. They just disappear if you're out there long enough. And then all of a sudden you go, huh? And you come back. I was at a lake house recently, and if you're out and then you come back and you say to the person you're with or the journal that you have, you know what I realized? Happens to us all the time. You have all of these questions. The screens amplify and compound the questions. I'm not advocating for lack of technology. It's just correct placement. It's just correct placement as
Well,
tool.
it's important that we maintain our humanity. And that, yes, and it's all about that. In fact, when I do my speech, the other day I had this um, I got this thought. And I
Yeah.
said, I went to Alexa and I said, Alexa, can you laugh? And Alexa said, I can laugh. Tee hee. Ask your Alexa. And then I said, Alexa, can you cry? I can cry. Boo hoo. That
Mhm.
says it all.
Is it
That
all?
says it all because we're emotional beings and creative beings, and that's what makes us different. Now, animals can be emotional. We've seen that if you've ever had a pet, because they take on the human emotional thing, but the domestic. But we're the only ones that really can create. I mean, birds make nests, beavers make dams. Okay, 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 but they can't draw a picture.
Um,
They can't write a book.
our creativity is our differential. And so when I hear people, so I was thinking about this, with the ABCs and how we're taught on to do things. Right now, someone says, okay, you have an idea, go right to AI, right? And tell it the ideas. But that is the exact place not to go first. Because when what you're doing is you're sourcing from like a regurgitative place. It's like recycled water. You don't use recycled water for your drinking.
Yes, that's a great metaphor.
You
That
can
is
use it in your
great.
car or, whatever. But
Yes.
when I see students say, well, I went to AI first, and I'm like, no, 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 because the imagination is a tool and it's only activated when it's used. What a lot of us, we don't imagine the grocery store. We don't imagine, and even with all this visual stimulus. So I've been really thinking about, when we're outside. When we were just at the lake house, I watched everyone's personality kind of drop in, and there was a span of 40 years, and the humans that were there, because there were littles and there were older, but everyone had an easier time coexisting because they weren't segmented.
Oh, yeah. And it just kind of creeped up on us, didn't it?
Did. But the great thing is you know what? And it's not that the phones were no longer at the lake house. It's that nobody was on them.
Isn't that nice?
Right. And I don't think we're
Communication.
going to do that in everyday life. I understand that. But we
Right.
can create habits. Like I'm wearing a watch again. And someone said to me, I didn't understand you. I didn't think you'd be a watch wearer. And I said, I'm not wearing a watch for time. I'm wearing a watch to not look at my phone.
Oh,
So, I mean, we can do little things and you might think, well, that's a lot. And it's like it's actually, but what you gain back is space. Space in your own mind and space in your own body. So that's why my talk is look up, because when we're down, the frontal cortex is acting differently. Your peripheral
oh, okay.
vision shrinks when you're on a phone. Your focus, what do you get? Eye strain. Well, if you go to an optometrist, or there was a book a long time ago, Heal Your Vision on Your Own, everyone what does it teach you? It teaches you to re-engage your periphery, helps you look up. What activities do you do? It's
Okay.
eye strain. You look up and you look to all the corners of your eye. Well, what happens, you don't sit like this and say, aha. You've been out and go, ah, ah, because when you tilt your eyes up, you actually click into a different part of your brain.
Oh, I love this. Tell
So
me
you
about somebody that when you went to speak, that
Mhm.
they gave you a little testimony about what they learned from you.
For sure, for sure. And I engaged a group that was planning their quarterly business, right? I was brought in as the inspirational speaker. And the business was in the middle of Pennsylvania. So that would have been metals, finances, marketing, under 5 million. And the sweet spot for where this woman was bringing in the companies from was between 1 and 5 million. So that's considered small business,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I said to her, we're gonna at the end of the talk, they're gonna go talk to trees. And she said, "Oh, and I don't think they're gonna like that." I said, "Well, half of them won't like it, but half of them will love it." And so instead of telling people to go outside, what I told them to
Whoa.
do, right, is to go
I
find a
love
tree and sit with the tree and see what you can hear. Or I left it loose. I didn't tell them, because I did know the audience, I didn't ask them to talk to the tree. I asked them to go find a tree that they're drawn to and listen or hear what they're inspired by. And what a lot of people, one woman in particular came back and she said, I get it. I get it because I'm always telling my people what to do. But when I was out there with the tree, I remembered to listen. That's what I have to do. I have to listen. She ran an HR firm and I got hired to go talk to her company in the fall. She said,
Oh,
I know what you're doing. And I said, it's not a trick. The trick is I'm not tricking anyone.
yeah,
Do you
no.
want that's the trick. And so what I find that happens when people are asked to go be with nature in an unsuspecting environment, because we were at a retreat center, but that was easily accessible to the highway and it was only a 1 day retreat. So people were not addressed to go traipsing off into the woods, right? So it was an easy thing for them to, some of them didn't leave the deck, some of them went actually out. But what happens is you are tripped into unpredictability, which makes you curious. And if you actually connect with nature, it's an immediate reciprocal relationship. There is this quote that is not mine, and I'm not going to quote directly, but the idea comes from Goethe, and he was in a time period in the early 1900s when mysticism and science were actually still very closely related, right? Because science and divinity were not seen as disparate philosophy.
Okay.
And he said that when you go out and observe nature, yes, 'cause nature is a living thing. When you observe nature, nature observes you. And when you allow yourself to be observed, it awakens your organs of perception.
Oh, that's lovely.
Lovely.
Y-
And so that's the lovely part of it. But what are the organs of perception? Critical thinking, pattern recognition, networking, human dynamics. So it's a really, nature does it, just does it. Nature doesn't need all the bullet points, right? But when
Uh-huh.
we come back in and people have like, why did I have an aha? Or how did that actually work? And it's because you went off of something static, because the computer's static. As fascinating as it is, it's not creating anything. But nature will reflect back what you might have been too busy to hear, because we're all too busy.
I went for a walk one time in the woods and I heard the trees talking to me. And I just sometimes you think it's your imagination, but the brain doesn't know the difference between between imagination and reality. And when you know what I kind of heard, you're so lucky that you get to move around. I am here standing and all I do is observe. I just watch every day's different, different people because I was on a path, but I never will move. I'm here forever throughout my lifetime. And you get to travel and go and do. That's what I heard.
I'm not surprised.
Uh-huh.
I took my son on a bike. Similarly, there was a trail that was actually very close to the city of Philadelphia. So it was not heavily wooded. I mean, you're going into a trail, but it's not we're not off in a pristine area. But it was in a neighborhood that when I was a kid, I went to, and I used to go with my grandfather. And while I was going down the hill, I thought, oh, I wish he could see us. And I heard the tree, I see you because I was here when you were here with your grandfather. And I was like,
Oh. Oh, so the trees hold memory.
they hold memory because so
Yeah.
that's why I was silent with you because they are observing and we keep moving. But I what that tree watched me grow, right? We think about nature growing, but that little girl became a teenager who became a college student that was still riding that same trail with her grandfather, right? So I that's what happens, right? We do a talk, and so we have people for an hour. But that hour, it might not be all of them, let's be honest, right? But somewhere between 10 to 30% of them will take that moment with a tree and it will seed,
Mm-hmm.
turn,
Mm-hmm.
and it will grow. And I think when we're speakers, if we aim to satisfy and inspire everyone,
Yes.
if we are true to ourselves, there will be somewhere between 30% that will really take that talk and it will crack into a crevice and grow.
Yes. It's the frightening thing about AI and control and all of that is that it's easy. Humans are kind of easy to program. I mean, we can see this all the time. They're very easy to believe, and then after they believe something to be true, they don't want to be wrong, and then they argue because they want to be right because they believe what they heard, but they don't do the investigation. So it's easy to program people because, or even to say, oh, you shouldn't like her. You shouldn't hang around with her. Like when we were in school, she died, and yeah, 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 yeah. And it's just a campaign against, whatever. And people, oh, and so then that becomes a belief. Well, I need to stay away from her. And then you find out later maybe that she's a very nice person, but there's a great saying in the South, Kate. I don't have a dog in that one. I don't have a dog. So we need to always reserve judgment unless for anything. And I think this is where we're moving. The sacred feminine is on the rise. And we need to hear more from women because we
Yeah.
get it. We get it.
We're wired differently, and our job is different. And it doesn't, and I know this is radical right now. We're not supposed to be the same.
No, we're not.
We're just not. And once you relax into that, it makes a lot more sense. And if people are like, "Well, why are you saying this?" Because I'm raising a son. So I
Okay.
have in my daily life, I see, well, oh, do I need him to, do I want to raise a man that has to like my likes, or do I want to raise a man that respects my likes?
Yeah. Well, there was a movie called The Stepford Wives. That was scary. Way back in the day, everybody was
Right.
and they all looked a little different, but they were all gorgeous. But
Mhm.
they were not human. And
Right.
and I think it was Catherine Ross. She was, trying to escape becoming one of the Stepford wives, and because otherwise, viva la différence. We are. That's otherwise we might as well be robots. We might as well be robots. If
Correct,
we,
which might seem safe to some, but not to the feminine who
mm-mm,
learns to birth differences, whether
yeah.
she's reading a book or in her garden. If you talk to a gardener, they don't see every plant the same. They'll talk about each season being different. Somebody who's an arborist, yes, there's similarity in oak trees, but they know the differences. And so it really, looking up reminds us that, oh, this is a very fascinating world. But I will recommend a book that I haven't written. It's called Dopamine Kids, and they talk. If you're curious, if this is interesting to you, and you're like, are they talking about something that I believe? It talks. Some of the chapters talk about the research that has been happening for decades on understanding how to entrap the human mind. And we're told that the phone gives us dopamine, but it actually clicks into a cycle of our brain that keeps us wanting.
Oh dear.
And so the research has been done, and they're mimicking what has been done on gambling apps now in social media. So
Oh
the goal is the wanting. It is not the nature, it is not pleasure, it is wanting. But the funny thing is when you go out in nature or when you're with other humans, all of a sudden your problems may still be existing, but over a good meal, you're not wanting.
my.
You're laughing,
Mm-hmm.
you're enjoying. So
Yes.
I think that is the invitation behind Look Up, and the tagline of creativity and critical thinking is because humans need to be reminded why we need to make time to learn something, right? But the reality is once we're with ourselves or with our people or putting ourselves in places that are not our people because we're curious and we're mission driven, it's not that hard anymore. It might not be easy, but it's not that hard.
So I ask people when I do these interviews, I always ask them, what's a song that inspires you? Do you have one?
I do. It's Sunday Best. And I think that the group is named Horizons. They're not a famous group. The song became famous because of a television show, but the tagline is feeling good like I should. I went and took a walk around the neighborhood. It's just reminds you
Oh,
that
isn't that
it's
great?
really upbeat. Yes, it's a really upbeat, fun song. We listen to it a lot.
There's a song that comes to mind with everything that you've talked about today. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I love this. I love that song. Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you
Thank
so much for this time to connect.
Okay, and I will talk to you soon, I hope.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All righty, let's see here.